god. So here we are. It has now been just over 5 years since I started calisthenics, and I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to sit down with you guys and just have a little bit of a debrief, a little bit of a chat about my journey and discuss how I went from being a complete novice, a complete beginner, to where I am now, which is a personal trainer who specializes in calisthenics. I always hope by sharing my journey, and especially with the background that I have, not being into health and fitness, not being active, and also being overweight most of my life, that it will inspire other people to get out there, try something new, or if calisthenics is something that you've been interested in, it might motivate you to keep pushing, or if you're on the same journey as me, it's just nice to know that you're not alone as well. So when I talk about my journey, I'm going to share some of the tips that have really helped me along the way, and also some of the thoughts and feelings that I've had, but also where the future lies for me, what I'm currently working on, and where I expect to see myself going with calisthenics and with my job. So I suppose we should run over a brief background, just in case you haven't met me before or you're not aware. In around 2017, 2018, that's when I started calisthenics, but prior to that, in the years leading up to that, I lost a significant amount of weight. I lost around 30 kilos, which is about 60 pounds if you're in America, and if you're based in the UK, it's 4.5 stone, so roughly about 30 kilos. And I did that just through changing what I ate and also moving a little bit more. I just did HIIT workouts a lot. I did start getting into running once I'd lost a little bit of the weight, and that's kind of where I stayed before I got into calisthenics. And I'm just brushing over that part because I have a lot of more in-depth videos all about my weight loss and all that stuff, so you can check out those ones, including the first video on my channel. That will give you a much better overview of not just my calisthenics journey, but also my weight loss as well. But because this video is mainly about the calisthenics, I'm going to zoom up to 2018 when I really started to get into calisthenics. And the way that I got into it was simply just by setting myself a goal to do a chin-up. This was the time back in the day when Instagram was just kind of taking off a little bit more, and I came across a video clip of a girl doing a chin-up, and I thought she looked like a badass, and I was like, I want to be able to do that. So I set about just trying to do it. I went and hung on a bar in the little gym in my apartment complex, and subsequently fell to the floor immediately, and I realized that it wasn't going to be quite as easy as I expected. But if there's one thing that I am, it's stubborn. Like painfully stubborn. If someone wants to tell me I can't do something or try to help me with something, it's like my toxic trait that I need to do it myself just to prove to myself I can do it. So I really stuck with my goal of being able to do a chin up. That being said, I was completely naive to what was going to lie ahead of me. I didn't know what calisthenics was. I was ignorant to the fact that it can take a long time to learn these things. I didn't even know how to train for these things. Looking back, I was just being quite intuitive with the movement and just thinking, I want to pull myself to the top of that bar, so every time I see something, I'm going to try and do that in a way that's kind of greasing the groove. And while that's a good training technique, it's definitely not the optimal training technique, which is why I was very much on the scenic route to achieving that chin up. But again, like I say, I was just in this position of naivety and ignorance. I didn't really know how to train for these things, and I didn't even think that it would become a big passion at that point. It was just a simple goal that I had for myself. But that being said, as time went on, I started to get more interested in bodyweight movement. I started following different people on Instagram, following different hashtags, seeing different movements, and me being the stubborn type of person I am, I just went and tried to do them. Whether it was a pistol squat, a handstand, some type of yoga movement, whether it was hanging on a bar upside down, doing a skin the cat, I was trying And don't worry, I was failing miserably at nearly everything. But the biggest thing that I started to realize was that I was having fun. I was having so much fun that I actually looked forward to an opportunity to move my body. And at this time, I was studying at university full time. I was working 2 jobs, so I had not that much spare time. But every little nugget of time that I could find, I would either be in my living room floor pushing all the furniture away, trying to do handstands against the wall, or I would be finding some outdoor park that I could go to, or simply just moving my body in a way that I could. So while I started, I suppose by accident in calisthenics, I very quickly started to realize it was something that I really enjoyed, and I noticed that my body was responding really well to it too. I could see little bits of progress, which were just enough to keep me attached to the journey, keep me pushing forward and making it just so enticing to just keep going towards that end goal, but also enjoying the process so much too. Again, I want to emphasize though, I was super naive to anything. I wasn't sitting there thinking, why is it taking me so long to do a chin-up? Because maybe this is a good thing that social media wasn't so big back then. There was not really that comparison because firstly, I didn't even know what type of training I was doing. I didn't know what the word calisthenics meant. I hadn't ever stepped foot in a gym before. I didn't know what I was doing. And secondly, I just didn't really care because I was just thinking, all I need to do is try and pull myself up in this bar. And this month I can pull myself slightly more. I can feel I'm a little bit stronger. So I had that to hold on to. So it was all shrouded in this young naivety that I had. I say young, but I started when I was 27, 28. So that was when I started calisthenics. That being said, there has been plenty of challenges that I've had to overcome in this journey and still do to this day. I remember when I started out, the sheer frustration. There are so many videos where I'm throwing resistance bands away or storming away from a pull-up bar because I wasn't able to do it. So if that's the way you feel regularly, don't worry. I was with you on that one and I still get that today with skills that I'm learning, but we'll come on to that a little bit later. There is one quote that I remember coming across and I remember just thinking it was absolute lies, which was, what you find impossible now will one day be your warm-up. And I just couldn't imagine the fact that hanging on a bar, doing a pull-up or doing a scapular pull-up or even doing hanging knee raises would one day become easy. And while I definitely wouldn't say that pull-ups are easy nowadays, they are truly my nemesis, things like hanging knee raises and scapular pull-ups have become a part of my warm-up. So if you're sitting there feeling hopeless about the fact that you'll never get somewhere, trust me, if you just stay committed and keep pushing forward and stay consistent enough, you will see progress in the future. Your body will always adapt to what you ask of it. It just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of pushing sometimes as well. Like I said, this journey has definitely had its ups and downs, and there's times where I felt super motivated, on top of the world when I've achieved new skills, and there's times where I've just felt completely overwhelmed and defeated. I feel like looking back, what really kept me motivated at the very beginning was firstly that naivety, so not comparing myself to other people or other people's journeys and timelines, but also because I started to love it so much, I started to incorporate it into my life. I started to track my progress, so I would make little video clips, I would record choreography that I would make up, or I would find one and try and copy it, and I just got so absorbed in that process that I loved it so much. And then as time went on, I created an Instagram account, which is the Instagram account that you see nowadays. I just initially started that to track my progress and to keep a little diary of what I was doing, but also find some inspo. And through that, I started to make a few friends through calisthenics, and as soon as I made those friends, it just started to grow from there and honestly became a huge part of my life. I've mentioned this in a few videos, but calisthenics genuinely has changed my life. And I know that statement sounds a little bit dramatic, but it really has. And when I think about it a lot, I actually get quite emotional, but it's changed my job and my career. I do something that I utterly love and I feel privileged to be able to do. Not only that, but it's changed me as a person. It's made me more confident. It's made me more outgoing. It's made me challenge myself and be more determined. See, it seems so crazy to say that a type of training can do that to you, but it's just given me some determination, some grit, some tenacity that I just didn't really have before, and the ability to back myself a little bit more than I used to, because I used to be a very insecure and shy person. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of days where I'm still my own biggest hater and I'm down on myself and I am insecure and I feel that. But generally I just have a lot more confidence and determination than I used to. So let's talk about how much I have actually achieved or progressed in 5 years, because you might think that 5 years is quite a lot of time. But as we all know, a year goes by like that nowadays. And I feel like the last 5 years is a complete blur. And there has been, like I mentioned, many ups and many downs and lots of life things. So there's a few different things to unpack and chat about here. In terms of actual specific skills that I've learned throughout that period, obviously I've learned a lot of the foundational exercises for calisthenics, and I've got to a point where I can do them for reps and I can do them with quite good form, which when you're doing calisthenics is a really great foundation to then build up your skills from there. So that's things like pull-ups, push-ups, chin-ups, dips, handstands, core exercises, although there's some that I neglect a little bit more than I should, and then some lower body exercises as well. And to be honest with you, for the most part, I would say that it took me around a year to learn each of those exercises, but I did them simultaneously. Let me add in here that timelines are different for everybody, and I didn't know what I was doing when I started out. So obviously now that I'm a personal trainer, I know that there's a more optimal way to train towards what I did than the way I did it. However, I didn't know any better and I was having fun with my training, but also I have a little bit of a different mindset towards training than maybe a lot of other people do. So while I say it was around a year since when I began to unlock those first foundational skills, it could have probably been a little bit quicker if I'd been a little bit more consistent or if I trained a little bit more optimally. Since then, it has been a little bit more of a rocky road and has definitely been a bit more up and down. The main one being that for a good year and a half, I had a pretty bad back injury. And I know the question always comes up, was it from calisthenics? It absolutely was not from training in any way. The injury that I had was an L5-S1 disc bulge. And essentially, we think that came from when I was a croupier while I was at university. I was doing a lot of repetitive movements and it put a lot of strain on that particular area and that particular disc. And over time, it just started to get worse and worse and worse. And eventually it just went like that. And that was actually after a period of not training for about a month because I'd been really unwell. So this happened in around 2020 and I still have the ramifications of that. I think it's something that I will have lifelong. So it will flare up and then it'll be more manageable at other times. But it definitely put a huge spanner in the works in terms of my training because for about a year, I really struggled to consistently train. I would say for the first 6 months, I couldn't really even walk. It was so painful. I couldn't sleep at night. I wasn't able to lie down comfortably. I wasn't able to stand up for any period of time. It was really, really hard to manage. I know I need to make a video all about this and about my treatment and how I'm going now, but obviously it is much, much better now. But for a good period of time, I wasn't able to train calisthenics. And so when I started to slowly get back into it, I noticed that a lot of the strength that I had worked on building up obviously had declined a little bit. However, I always say this to my clients, muscle memory is real. Your body remembers and your strength will always come back a little bit quicker than when you initially set out to do it. If I look at my 5-year journey, at least 2 years of that was taken up by being injured, not being able to train in any way at all, and then slowly trying to rehabilitate myself to get back to where I was. It's actually funny because I love to talk about timelines and how long it takes to learn new skills, because I feel like, you know, you can easily watch an Instagram reel or something on YouTube and see somebody learn how to handstand or muscle up or do a pull-up within a short time frame, whether it's a 60-second video or a 15-minute video. And sometimes subconsciously we just absorb that, thinking that that's a realistic amount of time for someone to learn something, you know, that you can learn a pull-up in a month. And I'm sure there are people out there who can learn a pull-up in a month because naturally they have a little bit more strength in their upper body or they might have a background in training. But for me and my personal experience, having never had a training background, having been overweight my entire life, it wasn't that way. It did take me a long period of time to learn these skills. And I know that that is very, very normal for a lot of people as well. Calisthenics skills do take a long time to learn, whether you are training optimally and following a program or whether you're just doing it a little bit more freestyle and taking the scenic approach like I do sometimes. I suppose I could add in here, that's where my mindset around training is slightly different, because I see movement as not a purely goal-focused thing to do, but an addition to your life, something that adds to your day or that you look forward to. And there's this balance between being physically healthy and being mentally healthy, and they're very much intertwined. There is no point in flat out pushing towards a physical goal, whether it's to achieve a certain skill or get to a certain fitness level, if it's going to affect your mental health, and vice versa. I always say that life is too short, so you should enjoy moving your body and trying to challenge it in different ways. And that's definitely something that I try to bring into my training. So while I love calisthenics and I do it a lot, I also have so many different hobbies now which include movement, but I always feel like the base of calisthenics has really helped me with those hobbies. I'm talking about things like rock climbing, hiking, scuba diving, skiing, all things that I've just learned in the last couple of years have really been helped by the fact that I had this basis in calisthenics. Also, it's all well and good to be following a program and optimally training for something, but life happens. And you can see that with me. I can give you so many examples of things that have happened in the last 5 years where training just hasn't been a priority for me, and therefore it's set me back in terms of the time frames of what I'm trying to achieve. So like I mentioned, that injury was probably the biggest spanner in the works, but there's been times where my partner Josh, he was in hospital for a period of a few months, and while I still tried to train, I was just hitting the minimal effective dose, just trying to maintain my strength rather than worrying about trying to build it or focus on learning new skills, for example. There's times where my mental health hasn't been so good, so I've just taken a step back a little bit and tried to change up what's my priorities. There's times where for work I've had to travel a lot more and I've just not really had the opportunity to train as much as I would like. And then there's times where I'm just not that motivated or interested in it, and I know that these times will pass. For me, I'm just happy to take a step back and just go with the flow sometimes, focus on other areas of my health and fitness, and then come back to it when I feel like I'm excited and passionate about it again. We all go through these little eras and times of life, and it's okay that this happens. So that being said, in terms of things that I would like to achieve in the future or I want to work on, I pretty much consistently for the last 2 or 3 years have set myself the goal of being able to do a muscle up and being able to do a press handstand. Not easy things to achieve, and I haven't been super consistent in terms of my training towards them, which is why I haven't achieved them yet. So I'm not going to cry myself to sleep about it, but those are things that I would love to see myself achieve, and I'm currently feeling quite good about my progress that I'm seeing towards them. That being said, I still think even if I trained them really, really well and programmed it and actually followed the program to the T, it would take me around 6 to 8 months from where I currently am to get a muscle up potentially, and even longer to get a press handstand, because for press handstands you really need to have a lot of flexibility and compression strength, and those are 2 things that are not my forte. But that is okay, because that is part of the process, and I know how amazing it feels when you unlock a new skill, and I just think that's the thing that keeps me pushing forward and coming back to it. Plus, I enjoy training towards these things. I mean, in the past, I genuinely have cried when I've achieved new skills, because the amount of work that you put into it is directly paid off when you unlock that skill. And I think the biggest thing that I feel in those moments is pride. Just proud of myself and my body for pushing forward, for not giving up and feeling determined to be able to achieve it. And it sounds, for some people, maybe really silly, but for someone who was always very underconfident and insecure and really just didn't think very highly of themselves or what they could achieve, I think it's a huge credit to see someone push themselves through a journey and actually achieve something that they've been dedicated to. And so in those moments, I just have a quiet little moment to myself, and I'm just like, yo, you should be proud of yourself for that. And then likely what happens is the next day you go and try and do the same thing and you can't do it. That's just sod's law, it's going to happen. But you know that you're making progress and you're getting somewhere. The thing with calisthenics is there is an unlimited supply of leveling up you can do. It doesn't matter how good you get at calisthenics, there is always something harder that you can learn. And so I know that I'm not in any big super rush, because every time you achieve something, you're like, awesome, I've just achieved it, on to the next thing. That's the way it goes. And I've spoken about that in terms of weight loss as well. When you have a specific goal and you get so set on reaching this goal, and then you wake up and one day you're there, you kind of just realize that the goalpost has just moved and no one's there with the champagne popping it saying congratulations, it's just another day. And it's kind of the same with calisthenics. So like I say, I'm happy to take the scenic route, take a little bit more of a relaxed approach and enjoy my training and just be a little bit more flexible, because that works for me. And for some people, they really love being really, really rigid with their routine and seeing that progress and tracking it really well. And that works for them. So it is about having your own approach, but also calisthenics gives you that opportunity. Also, personally, I get the additional buzz that I do this as a job and I'm a personal trainer, and I work with a lot of women who are learning calisthenic skills, and I get to see them unlock new skills all the time or see little bits of progress. and that fills me with so much joy. So to kind of go back to my journey, in 2019 I moved from Australia back to the UK, and I decided at that point that I was going to become a personal trainer. And so obviously what I was doing as a hobby now became my job, and I must say I do absolutely love and feel privileged for the job that I do. I'm going to share a few of the reasons why I particularly love calisthenics and bodyweight movement and why I find it so exciting. Firstly, the calisthenics community is amazing. It's definitely a bit more of a niche community. If you see someone training calisthenics at the gym, you can pretty much go straight away and beeline for them, because it's not that often you see it. It's a little bit rarer. And everyone is so supportive, regardless of whether you've never done a calisthenics workout in your life or whether you have been doing it for your entire life. Everyone is working hard to achieve a new skill and are so supportive and just want to see everyone succeed. So I love the calisthenics community, and I love being able to grow it and see other people get involved in it. Secondly, it's about using your environment. I mentioned in a previous video, you know, I can look around this room and create an entire workout based off my body weight and what's in here, which, let's face it, is not a lot of stuff. There's been times where I've been on vacation and I've been able to go to the beach and do a workout, or I've found a little park and I've been able to do a workout, or even I'm just in my hotel room trying to burn some energy because I've had too much coffee and I've been able to do something. So it really is about getting creative and just being able to use what you have in your environment. I've already mentioned this a few times, but when you unlock a new skill, the feeling is just chef's kiss. It's incredible. It's such a good feeling. It definitely, to me, feels better than if you increase your weight on your bench press or your bicep curl or whatever it might be. Yes, that feels good, but unlocking a calisthenics skill is just like, chef's kiss. It's so good. This is something that you really start to notice when you do start training calisthenics or body weight, and that is that what you're doing is really transferable into day-to-day life. And this is something that I really consistently hear clients say when they start training, is that they notice that what they're doing day to day feels easier, whether it's taking the litter out, whether it's getting in and out of their car, walking up the stairs, bending down to pick something out of a cupboard. They find these movements become so much more easy, natural, their proprioception is better, and generally they just feel good overall. Again, that's definitely something that I notice personally. If I go through a phase where I don't train as consistently, I just don't move as well. I feel a little bit more sluggish, I feel a little bit more tired. Everything kind of just feels like it takes a little bit more effort. Whereas when I'm training regularly, I just feel like Superwoman. I'm walking around, my posture feels good. I feel like I can carry my grocery bags. I don't need any help from anyone. And that helps when you're stubborn like me. And then the last one I'm gonna mention is just that it's challenging. It's challenging in the best kind of way. It's mentally challenging, it's physically challenging, it's different, it's a little bit out of the box, and there's just something about a challenge that just feels really, really good, especially if it's a little bit out of the norm. So that's just a few of the reasons why I love it, but that kind of leads us up to where we are today. I'm still building on those foundational skills. I'm still trying to improve my form. I feel like there's never enough work I can do to work on my form, but there's also so many different skills that I can try and learn as well. And I have so much fun working on things like that. It can be as simple as doing side bends in my handstands, or trying to do explosive pull-ups or straight bar dips, trying to work on explosive movements. There's so many different variables and little ways that you can go that I feel like you can be so creative with your workouts and your movement. I feel like because I came from the background that I did, I have a better understanding of what it feels like to start a journey like this. And I know for a lot of people it can be really daunting, and I would always say try not to compare yourself to anyone, because it is such an individual journey and everybody has a different background, everybody has different strengths naturally, so it's better to focus on your own journey and focus on what you can achieve and what makes you happy as well. In terms of other tips that I have for beginners, obviously consistency is huge, and consistency doesn't mean you have to show up every day at 100%. Consistency just means that you show up the majority of the time and you work pretty consistently. So you can take a little bit of pressure off yourself and try to think about the approaches that you take. Do you need to be really rigid with your training, or are you happy just to take the scenic route like I do sometimes? These things are so flexible that there are going to be periods where you can be a little bit more on point and really pushing it, and then times where you're super laid back about your training. Along with consistency, being patient is important, because like I said, progress can be very, very slow, but you have to believe that you are making progress. You just can't see it day to day. And that is important to remember. So just stay patient with it and keep chugging along. look for tiny little markers of progress. Filming yourself is fantastic for this because you might not think that it looks better, but you might just be an inch more aligned, or you might just be pulling yourself up just slightly a bit further. And that is progress. That's what you need to look out for, and keep holding on to that, because over a period of time, that will be huge. In terms of what you should focus on or what you should try and learn, you can learn the fundamentals like the ones that I explained, and I've got heaps of videos on my channel if you want to learn a little bit more about those. But also have a little bit of fun with your body, because you just don't know what you might achieve. And it is also about being able to move your body in different ways and control your movements, have better coordination and proprioception. And by just doing stuff that you can't necessarily do or you haven't done before, that's still going to benefit you, as well as training for those fundamentals too. So one of my really big tips for beginners is just to try and have fun. Just go out and explore what you can achieve with your body and just play around. If you watch children in a playground playing around on the monkey bars and doing handstands and that sort of stuff, that's kind of what you want to channel, being able to explore the environment and just see what you're capable of. And so that is pretty much everything that I wanted to run through. Honestly, calisthenics has changed my life, and I always feel so dramatic saying that, but it genuinely has. I would not be sitting here filming this video for you guys had I never started calisthenics. I have so many friends and such an amazing community of you guys around me, purely down to the goal of trying to learn how to do a chin-up. It has genuinely changed my life, and I cannot be more thankful for it. I probably shouldn't talk about it too much because I do tend to get a little bit teary, which is weird because I never really cry about anything, yet calisthenics I cry about. It really has just had such a monumental impact on my life, and I do love it so much. I get so fired up and passionate when I see someone trying to learn a handstand and I get to help them. It's just amazing. So I'm going to zip it now. If you do have any questions, you can drop them down below. I would love to hear your journeys. If you've been getting into calisthenics, if you've got a training journey or a background that you'd like to share, I'm always excited to hear what you guys are up to and where you guys have come from, because I personally find it super, super inspiring. So thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for your ongoing support, and I will see you guys in the next one.